So all of us can get so easily caught up in the things of this world. All of us can so easily become distracted and disturbed by all the things that are going on around us. And while many of the things we have to engage in are good for ourselves and our families, our life of faith fundamentally calls us to a different perspective, to look beyond all the temporal things of this world and to keep our focus on the world to come. Our first reading from the book of Kings shows this insight in that encounter between the Lord and Solomon. Solomon, one of the greatest kings in the history of Israel. The chosen people are enjoying their most successful and prosperous time in their history. And the Lord comes to him in a dream and instructs him to ask of him anything that he wants, and he will give it to him. Now let's just stop here. And let's put ourselves in Solomon's position. Let's imagine that God comes to us and asks us to ask of him anything, and he'll give it to us. Wouldn't our minds race? Wouldn't we rapidly try to go through that list of all those things that we think we need and we don't have? Wouldn't we naturally look to temporal things like security or success or comfort? And yet how does Solomon respond? Give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people and to distinguish right from wrong. He asks for the gift of wisdom. Again, he asks for that perspective of faith. And that is what you and I constantly need. Wisdom illumines our faith. It supports us in all of our trials and our doubts. It gives us a fuller understanding of all things. And it prompts us to seek the courage to live out the call that God has given to us. Wisdom constantly seeks to remind us and inform us of the things that really matter, the things of God, so that our focus will not be diverted to all those other things around us, things that are so fleeting and will so quickly pass. Again, we see that image in our gospel today. For the third consecutive week, we're in chapter 13 of St. Matthew's gospel. We've heard those parables over the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, the parable of the seed and the sower. Last week, the parable of the wheat and the weeds. So today we hear 3 parables about the kingdom of heaven. And they tell us that this kingdom of heaven, this presence of God with us and within us, this hope for culmination of it and its perfection forever in heaven, is that most precious and that most important treasure that any of us can have. Whether one is poor, which is the implication that scholars suggest in the first instance of the person finding the treasure, or rich, symbolized by that merchant in the second who finds that pearl of great price, we're called to recognize that nothing compares with our being joined to God and our living in his grace and his life. And wisdom would then guide us and direct us to give up everything to obtain it. And then the third parable looks to how this kingdom will then be realized. At the end of this life, how God will judge each and every one of us. The good, those who remain close to him, will be welcomed into his never-ending kingdom, while the wicked, those who refused his call and his mercy, will be cast into the everlasting fire of hell. Again, wisdom always seeks to help us to keep this perspective. Wisdom wants to keep our minds and our hearts united to God, to his love, his truth, his plan. And so while we have so much to do in our lives, and while much of it is good, let's not forget that primary and that ultimate good, the ultimate goal of our life, which is to get to heaven. And let us allow wisdom to keep this in the forefront of our minds, recognizing, as St. Paul writes, that God has called us to be conformed to the image of Christ. Again, to seek his grace and to look to that first and most important desire that is meant for all of us, to grow each day closer to him and to achieve one day that greatest goal that any of us can ever attain, the fullness of life with him forever in his kingdom of heaven.